The first time the boy entered Budia's house, he didn't offer a name, and he didn't say thank you. He stood motionless in the doorway, soaked to the bone, staring outward with hollow eyes while a puddle formed beneath his bare feet. He exhibited the physical reality of a complete psychological vacuum. When a child experiences absolute abandonment, they stop expecting the world to provide for them. There is no entitlement, no hope for rescue, and a complete absence of the desire to communicate. We can visualize this state through defensive isolation. The isolated dot represents a shattered mind. To prevent further betrayal, a thick barrier preemptively rejects incoming lines of connection. Basic offerings like food hit the barrier, processed as dangerous traps. Because of this, aggressively forcing comfort on a trauma survivor almost always fails. Demanding gratitude or rushing in for a hug doesn't break down their walls. It simply signals to their hyper-vigilant brain that you're another unpredictable threat they need to manage. Over the first few days in Budia's house, a tense, silent routine set in. The boy had physical safety, but physical safety does not instantly translate to psychological safety. He ate quickly, defensively, and always retreated to the farthest corner of the room. Budia recognized this, so she deployed a specific strategy. She stepped aside. She offered sustenance, but entirely removed the social transactions we normally attach to care. She didn't ask his name. She didn't press for his story. She didn't require him to be thankful. At night, the house filled with the sounds of his severe night terrors. He would cry out, begging someone not to leave him. But if Budia approached to comfort him, he physically recoiled. His body treated her proximity as an involuntary survival reflex against a perceived attacker. Budia's response is known clinically as non-demand caregiving. It is the deliberate, ongoing suspension of all interpersonal expectations. You provide the environment and the resources, but you demand nothing in return, not even a smile. By refusing to push for a relationship, Budia gave the boy's nervous system exactly what it needed. Without a constant stream of social demands to fight off, his active threat response could finally pause, establishing a neutral, quiet baseline for the first time. The shift from that neutral baseline began on a quiet evening by the fire. Budia sat near him, changing the spatial dynamic. But instead of looking at him and demanding his attention, she focused entirely on repairing an old piece of cloth. Speaking softly into the silence, she shared her own story. She spoke about a son she once had, a boy who talked too much and trusted her completely. She placed her own lingering grief into the open air between them. This introduces the mechanism of shared vulnerability. Look at this tilted seesaw. Traditional caregiver-victim relationships contain an asymmetrical power imbalance. The caregiver, acting as the higher node, exerts downward pressure on the survivor. That inherent imbalance naturally prevents genuine trust. By sharing her own brokenness, Budia releases her position of power. Her vulnerability flows to the center, perfectly leveling the imbalance. In the boy's eyes, she transitions from an intimidating savior into a fellow survivor. The very next morning, the boy didn't throw his ball aside, he placed it slightly closer to her. Trust rarely arrives through grand, sweeping interventions. It builds through microscopic, voluntary gestures born from mutual understanding. The newly formed bond faced a severe trial when a harsh, isolating winter arrived. The boy contracted a sudden fever, leaving him shaking and weak. The illness stripped away the physical defenses he relied on to feel safe. Sitting by the fire, he made an explicit confession. "They left me," he said. "That's what people do." The physical vulnerability of his illness acted as the ultimate trigger for his core fear, the absolute certainty that everyone eventually abandons him. Budia met this regression with physical endurance. She stayed awake night after night. She fed him water, told him stories, and offered continuous, unbroken protection, refusing to pull away even when he told her to go. This timeline graph maps the core psychological threshold known as attachment permanence. The fluctuating sine wave represents the boy's fear, constantly spiking and testing boundaries. The unbreakable horizontal line is Budia's constant presence. Permanence occurs at the precise moment a traumatized mind realizes the caregiver has successfully outlasted his deepest expectation of betrayal. When the boy woke, his final defensive wall collapsed. Realizing she hadn't left, the anxiety smoothed out. Slowly, voluntarily, he reached out and held her hand, not in desperation, but in grounded trust. Healing completes itself at the definitive moment when the absolute expectation of abandonment is replaced by the unshakable certainty of someone's presence. Years later, the environment in the house looked different. Boudia grew weak with age, and a strong, grown man sat by her bedside, holding her hand. It was a complete role reversal. When he told her she didn't have to be afraid, it was because the permanence she modeled had become the foundation for his own capacity to comfort her at the end of her life. Long after she was gone, the man lived in a home at the edge of town. His door was always open, taking in lost children, and during the worst storms, a single lantern burned brightly in his window. This is generational intervention. An isolated act of radical patience repairs a single broken individual, while creating a living blueprint for compassion that outlasts the people who started it. The choice to stay transformed a forgotten boy into a beacon for those who come after. Because someone stayed for him, he now stays for them.